Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here with Elaine, Kylie, Kearns today. I'm Sylvia Liu, and we're going to talk about KidLit 411. But first of all, we're going to introduce ourselves briefly.
I'm Elaine Kearns. I am a picture book and middle grade author. I am a former elementary school teacher, and I am so happy to be here.
I'm Sylvia Liu. I write picture books and middle grade books, and I have several middle grade books out, but the one I'm really excited about that's going to come out in February is a World Cup themed mystery that's coming out with Scholastic. It's called Stealing the Score. So, Elaine, why don't you tell us about how KidLit 411 started?
So in 2013, our critique group had just formed a group of five of us. And we were trying to learn the industry and research as much about picture book writing as we could. And so I had been writing down links that I wanted to share with my critique group, very helpful links to craft. And so I had been making this list, and then I thought, oh, this is so silly. It's on paper. Who does paper anymore? So I thought maybe I'll just start putting it on the internet and then we could share it with our critique group. And then Sylvia came up with the bright idea, hey, maybe we should just put it on the internet and like everyone could see it then. And so that is really how KidLit 411 came to be. That was the beginning nuggets of what is now a really large um, place for people to come and learn about writing and picture book writing and middle grade writing and YA writing and all sorts of things about craft.
So basically, KidLit 411 started out as a website, and it's found at kidlit411.com. And what it essentially is, it's a resource site filled with these links that, we started out gathering, one by one. And now they're organized in different categories. And so I'll share my screen in a little bit to just share how it works. But we basically started interviewing authors and illustrators. So we had weekly spotlights, and then we created a Facebook group that now has over almost 18,000 members. And so that Facebook group is a really great community forum, actually, where people share ideas and ask questions. And someone will be like, oh, I had this problem with my, agent. Has anyone else experienced it? And then people will chime in. And then we have several other parts as well. Like we have a couple other Kidlit 411 Facebook groups.
We have a KidLit 411 manuscript swap group, which is where you can go and you can ask to swap manuscripts with someone else to get, feedback and find out what you can improve, what you don't improve. It's very helpful. People have had like really great experiences with it. We also have a illustrator group, a swap group, where you can get feedback on your illustrations from others. And everyone's at a different stage, which is really, I think, what makes the community wonderful. We've got people like Sylvia who have multiple books published. And then you've got people that are just starting. They maybe said, oh, I'm interested in becoming a picture book writer, and they only have manuscripts or they have lots of drafts, and so they're still working, and it doesn't matter. No one cares. Everyone's there to help each other. And so I think that's one of the reasons that the group works so well, is that everyone is kind and everyone is helpful and everyone is willing to, tell you, oh, hey, you know what? Maybe you could try this. Or when I had an agent and this didn't work out for me, this is what I did. Or, oh, guys, I just maybe last week in the Facebook group, somebody was like, oh, I'm getting these emails and they're saying they're going to promise me this. Has anyone else get them? And then everyone's like, oh, you know what? You got to watch out for that because that might be a scam. And so everyone really looks out for each other, and it's really just wonderful and warm.
The thing I actually really like about our Facebook group is that we have some really long-standing members who are very prominent members of the Kidlit community. Like we have editor Harold Underdown, we have Emma Dryden, who used to be editor at major houses, but now she's a freelance editor. Julie Headland from 12 by 12, people who are very experienced, very published editors, agents who will chime in on a frequent basis, and explain to people who are just starting, like, oh, yeah, that is a normal thing to happen in this industry. Or, oh, no, you should be worried about this. So,
Right. And the thing too is to remember is that this is free. There's no charge. You join the group and you get involved, and there's no fees for any of this. Everyone works out of the goodness of their hearts, and all the experts in the industry that are just so nice to hop on and help everybody and direct everyone do it out of the goodness of their hearts. So I think that's really something to distinguish from other groups.
and I guess maybe this is a good time for me. I'm going to share my screen and I'll just kind of give us an overview really quickly of what KidLit 411 looks like and what it's about as a website. So essentially, it's kidlit411.com. And every week we have one post called the Weekly 411. Every Friday it comes out, and we'll do a couple book giveaways. And then we also just gather links on different craft topics, writing courses. So, we'll remind people the 12 by 12 challenge opens in January 9th. Here are a couple writing courses. And then there'll be other either craft or industry articles, how to do a successful author event, etc. And so that is the weekly update. But basically what happens is every week we're adding uh, links to the site. And so the new links get into the weekly update. But all the links that we've added over the past 13 years are in these different categories. So there's for writers, picture books, chapter books, middle grade, it goes on. So those are generally crafts, but then we have courses and challenges, critique groups, graphic novels. Then we have a whole section on sort of like what's the process for submissions, lots of marketing and creating a platform, diversity, contests, mentor programs, legal resources, all about publishing, revisions. It just goes on and on. And every single one of these links, I mean, goes to about 200 links. So just to give you an example, I'm going to hit so submissions, agents and editors. And so we basically go down through the entire process. Like step one, are you ready to submit? So there's about 15 articles on are you ready to submit? Two, decide who to submit to. So these are lists of agents. What is the role of an agent? How do you get an agent? And then we have a list of publishers who accept unsolicited manuscripts. So if you don't want to go for an agent, look at these publishers. How do you research agents? Here are lists that we've compiled of agents. How do you research your preferred agents? So there's query tracker, there's manuscript wish lists, there's all sorts of different ways. Cautionary posts. Okay, these are things to look out for. Querying your agents. And so we have a whole other page on querying, which has another 100 articles. But, this is, submitting your best work. Follow-up, patience. So what are response times? What do you do when you get an offer? What do you do when you get rejections? Taking the call. These are all the questions you should ask. And, understanding your contract. Now you have agent contracts. Here are some of the things you should do. And so this is just all examples of that.
It's kind of different than a Google search because we have curated the links. So we have literally gone, read the article, saw something that we thought was really helpful, and then it goes on. So when you Google, you just get all the links that contain, but this is more specific, and it's also the best of the best. And I think that's important to note because we spend time doing that every week. We're looking up links and we're trying to find the best stuff. I could Google, picture books, and 9 times out of 10, the first 10 searches that come up, I'm not really thrilled with them. I've it's basic stuff. So the links are curated by the both of us, and we spend a lot of time. And I think we've been at this now we're all at it over 13 years, going on our 14th year of. So I feel like we kind of know what really works and what doesn't. So it's important when you're in the Kidlit 411 group, Facebook group, if you have a question, to go to the website, because sometimes people forget, we're actually a website too, and you can find the information that you need, of course.
So and the other thing that Elaine and I wanted to talk about was not just the website. KidLit 411 isn't just a website. It isn't just a resource, but I think the most valuable thing is the community of it, right? And I feel like over the 13 years we've been doing this, because we have constantly highlighted other people's books through the spotlights, and now we do giveaways. So if you are a published author, both traditional and indie published, and you asked us and we have space, we will highlight your book in a weekly giveaway, as long as we have space. And we do book kind of far in advance. But because of that, I think we have met like so many different authors. Uh, we go to like a conference like the SCBWI conference in New York one year. We had a KidLit 411 gathering. It must have been like 40 people, right?
Yeah, it was so fun. It was so great to meet everybody in person.
I think like that was one of the things that, like when our kids were young, don't like make friends over the internet. But you know what? All my author friends I made over the internet.
In this industry, it's awesome. It's so great.
I do feel like so much of like what people get out of this is you can make your connections online. You can meet someone that you share critique with on the Facebook critique swap group. But so there've been a lot of people who then they like each other's work, so then they go off and become critique partners. And then, years later they meet, and so they become friends.
I think that's really important too, because you don't know, for us in our critique group, I don't even, I think it was through Julie's 12 by 12 that we met. And so our critique group, thank you, Julie. We met through her 12 by 12 group, and you never know. We just clicked, and it's important. It is important because writing can be very lonely. It can be, it's such a thing that is just independent, that you do need to be able to reach out to somebody and say, you know what, I'm really struggling writing this, and we're are each other's cheerleaders, and it's important to have that community. I think community is everything in this industry. It really is.
I mean, before 12 by 12, I had been trying to write picture books on my own, but I was totally spinning my wheels. When you try to at the beginning, you think, oh, I can do it myself. I can just figure it out. I can look online. And the thing is, I didn't make the next step up in my like writing career until I got my critique partners. So, and that was through a community like KidLit for One. It was 12 by 12. Out of that, Elaine and I, created KidLit for One, and I know that there are a lot of people who have met their writing people, through KidLit for One.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, I would not have necessarily been able to reach out, and everything happened very organically for us, which is really important. That it wasn't forced, it was just, it kind of just all happened. And I like to think of it as like it happened out of goodness, out of kindness, out of, hey, you know what? Let me help this person. By profession, I am a teacher, an elementary school teacher. So I'm always looking to like, oh, what can I do? But I think that I think it's important to make that connection with people in our industry.
We're not the only group that does this. There's so many people in the Kidlit community that have created these wonderful communities. I think that the Kidlit community is one of the most generous ones. There's not many groups like SCBWI where you have the luminaries of your field constantly coming to conferences and sharing their wisdom and ideas, like the Jane Yolans of the world or whatever. You don't go to another, like, even other writing conventions and get that level of real buy-in, I think. So we're not special, but I think we are part of this special community.
When we first started, Kidlit 411, we used to do the weeklies, and we also did an interview with an author. And I remember I was at a SCBWI event in New York City, and I met Drew Daywalt, who wrote The Day the Crayons Quit. And he is the nicest guy. He's still a sweetheart. And I had asked him, we were brand new. We were literally so, we were in the infant
I
stages
think
of
we
it.
have had, like, 2 author spotlights
Yeah,
on
too, right?
It's like we did Yvonne, we did Teresa.
Yes, exactly, our critique group members, and I reached out to him and I was like, "Okay, so we met at the SCBWI, and I was just wondering, could I interview you for our new website and Kidlit 411?" And he was so gracious. He was like, "Absolutely. You absolutely can interview me." And he did. And it went from there to Tommy DePaula. And Jane Yolen, and it just, so many generous authors, really well-known authors that I am sure have so much many better things to do with their time than to speak to us, but they did, and it was just wonderful, and it really did jumpstart everything for us.
And there was a period, we haven't done it recently, but I would say for about 4 or 5 years in a row, we had these what we called birthday bashes, 3 or 4 days at the beginning of the year where we basically gave out for free all these amazing generous donations. So people gave out like free memberships to, their different groups. A lot of people gave out critiques, agents gave out golden tickets, get into the head of the line, and it was all out of this, because everybody has this generous spirit about them, and it was amazing because we love that when we celebrated our birthday each January, we were giving away the presents instead of getting them.
Yes. It was so chaotic, but so fun. It was really great. It was wonderful. I think we did that for the first 5 years.
Yeah.
So, it's great. Right now, it's just the group is it's still vibrant, and we still have wonderful people.
Yeah. It's it is interesting how you see, like, trends of things because, like, there's now the discussion is about AI, and we've had to, like, pull it off, like, Facebook is trying to get the AI bots into our groups, and we're constantly, like, kicking them out.
Keep on coming up with a new way to just come up with to infiltrate the group, and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, what is happening?" And then occasionally I'll get an email from somebody and they're like, "Did I do something wrong? I posted this." And I'm like, I check it. It's totally fine. I don't know why it was flagged, but yeah, so we end up having to do a lot of that policing, I guess. Yeah, moderating. So it gets a little chaotic at times.
Elaine and I have had a lot of experience with critique groups together and or one critique group that has sort of morphed, and I think the thing is you kind of can't go into it thinking like, "Okay, this is it. This is our critique group, and we're gonna be best friends forever," because things change, and you don't always know if you're going to mesh well, and so it's really through the working of through things that you find out like, "Okay, this works, this doesn't," and people come and go, people's lives change, so the critique group you end up with may not be the one you start with. You might end up having different critique partners, and that's okay too. Like, you may not have a group. You may have, like, oh, these two are my readers for my middle grade, and these two people are my readers for picture book. So it's not really like you have to have the critique group.
So for me, I have always approached critique groups and finding people based on my personality. So Sylvia will tell you, like, I'm kind of like, I'm out there, I'm gonna tell you. It does not always come out like coddly, but I'm going to give you like what I think is the best. That does not mean it's the best. But I'm gonna say, like, oh, I really think this is working, and I really don't think this is working, and I think this is working. And it can come off if you're, like, super sensitive, which most of us are. If you're super sensitive, it might come off as like, "Oh my god, why does she think that?" You know what I mean? And I think keeping an open mind with the different types of critiques you could get, I think that is important. No one is trying to like say you stink. No one is trying to say that that manuscript is horrible. May be like some of the best critiques that I have ever gotten. Someone was like, that line's not working. And I know you could do better than that, or they've given me a suggestion, which has made me think of something else. So I think letting go of your own ego is sort of really important when you're finding people, and also finding people who are strong in whatever area. So, for example, if you write in rhyme, you need to find someone who critiques in rhyme but knows how to rhyme. And we have one of the girls in our group, Renee Latulip. She is phenomenal. Like, we were lucky. I don't particularly write in rhyme because I'm kind of terrible, but I've tried it. I've tried it. And then when you get a master critiquing it, you're like, "Oh, I have so much to learn." And that's okay. But I think you need those kind of people. You need your middle grade people if you write middle grade. You need somebody who knows like start to finish character arcs. So I think finding somebody that is good and letting your ego go and not getting upset about maybe a harsh critique. I think that is really important. And I think that's worked for us in our groups. And any of the groups or the people that I'm with, I always go in and I'm like, here it comes, like I'm going to get this critique back. But I want them to do that. Like, I'm not going to improve if you tell me, oh, this is just lovely. Oh, just tweak these two. No, it's not like, obviously, it's not that great. No one's buying it yet. So, you know, that's just been always my perspective and how I approach it. I kind of like want you to cut it up because I need it to be better. And it's not going to be better unless I let go of the child. Like we always consider our work our babies and you gotta let go. I remember once I had signed up for a critique, I think it was through Inked Voices. And I forget what editor was on, and it came with, like, a critique, and she chopped it. She chopped it, and, like, for the first 24 hours, I was like, "What am I doing? Why am I in this industry? I can't write for anything." And then, like, 24 hours after that, I was like, "Oh, you know what? This is wonderful feedback." So, sometimes you just gotta live with it first.
If you're like a beginning writer, it's you don't have to find like people who are published. You can start out with other unpublished people in your same level because one of the things you do is you really learn when you critique other people. And our initial critique group, none of us were published, none of agented, and now all of us are, published, agented, etc. The other thing I would say is there's ways to like you don't have to like have the idea, I have to create a critique group and find everyone at once. You can do classes like Ink Voices, where great workshops. You can do, online workshops, or your local writing center. And so when you like in those classroom settings are critiquing each other's works, you'll notice like, oh, this person gives great critiques and I really like her work. Then you can go offline and say, hey, you want to swap, our next manuscript. And so that's kind of how you organically build, a critique group. I think you are always ready for a critique group, even at the very beginning of your writing. I mean, maybe not the piece that you wake up from a dream and you write like for 15 minutes, that piece. I would always do 1 or 2 rounds of self-editing. But once you feel like you personally can't improve your work anymore, then you want someone else to look at it.
When you're looking at your work and you're like, "Wow, this is really great. I think this is good," that's when you want somebody else to come in. And that's why I said before, you really wanna just, let the ego go because what you think is just so wonderful. Like, I look at my early drafts now and I'm like, "What was I thinking?" But there are nuggets in there, there are nuggets that sometimes will jump you into a different manuscript. I've done that many times where I'm like, "You know what? I don't like this, but I like this character, so I'm gonna, like, start a new story using this character." So, I agree. I think right off the bat, you should be getting some feedback of some sort. One of our tabs in the KidLit 411 website is about people who will do paid critiques and they're vetted, they are, authors, they're strong. So you can always look at the list and even, get a paid critique. They're not really crazy expensive. That's another way of doing it if you don't have a critique group of, maybe finding somebody who can just give you fresh eyes, as we like to say.
And we've mentioned voices. That's a really great source of information and these workshops. But on that platform, just find people to share manuscripts with. And also like 12 by 12 is a whole program where if you're once you're part of that community, you have access to all sorts of critiques, and then all sorts of like different online Gotham writers in New York, the Muse Writer Center in my town, Norfolk. There are all these great online classes that you sign up for and you can get critiques.
I would absolutely, obviously bring your manuscripts. Make sure that you have a solid idea of maybe what you're looking for. Sometimes you can write a picture book and you're like, you know what? I don't think the middle is working. I don't think the ending feels satisfying. And you can even just ask somebody like, okay, I think the first 200 words are great. What about the last? So you can just maybe go in with something specific, um, a good attitude, know that everyone wants to help you, that no one's gunning for you. Another thing too, I think a lot of people that are new to the industry, no one's going to steal your idea. No one's gonna steal your idea. Like, really, we all have books full of ideas, and sometimes those ideas overlap, but nobody is gonna be like, "I'm gonna take that," you know? So maybe relaxing in that sense as well, like getting a solid trust.
I was in a workshop where we were teaching, English teachers in school settings and how to, like, develop critique, like, helping their students give critiques and receive critiques. And one of the things we really focused on, and I think that helped a lot of teachers, and I think it applies to authors as well, is that you don't always have to get stuck on being the writer and the craft and what works from a craft perspective. Think of yourself and your reader as readers. You know, you read a thing, and what more do you want to know? What is working as a reader? What emotion are you feeling, right? Because you're ultimately writing for the readers and you want readers to get what you're trying to convey. And so if you approach your critiques that way, am I conveying to my readers that this is a very, sad story, but they're not getting it, then that's where you can do something different.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the emotion sometimes you can ask somebody to give a critique based on like, how are you feeling about when you read this? Are you tell me what emotions you're feeling when you're reading my manuscripts? If they come back and like Sylvia said, it's supposed to be really sad and they're laughing, you're missing the mark. So, I write funny, so I don't I don't do really too sad. Obviously, but I think it's important to go in with the right attitude on things. I think that's attitude is everything, truly. But like we were talking earlier, the KidLit community is just, it really is a trustworthy, loving, kind, in general community among the authors and the writers.